Welcome to the Swim Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges. Joining us today, she is a two-sport athlete in the NCAA, having competed at the NCAA Division II Championships in both swimming as well as track and field. She's an NCAA All-American from Augustana. Today, we're sitting down with Bryn Greenwaldt. Bryn, thanks so much for joining us. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. This episode of the Swim Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. Bryn, you just had a huge weekend. You were giving live updates throughout your day at the NCAA Championships, where you not only competed in prelims and finals of the 100 freestyle, you also, in between, went to the track and competed in the high jump as well. First off, can you just take us through your day? Give us a little recap of what that day was like and what you were hoping to get out of it.
Yeah, the day started probably around like 6 in the morning because I was terrified. And so I literally was so nervous. I could not sleep. I'm like, this is going to be, I was nervous, one for like all the competing, but also for the fact that I was going to be so tired. So in turn, my body was like, oh, like we need more rest. So we're not going to sleep tonight. Like, oh, perfect. This is awesome. So I woke up at around 6 a.m. on my own and just kind of hung around the hotel until like 7:15. And then I went and ate breakfast, and around 8:30 we headed for the pool because I swam in the 100 freestyle, which was the first event of the day. And the meet started at 10. So we got to the pool. I like to get there really early, like obnoxiously early, and my entire team probably hates me for it, but I'm like 2.5 hours before my event, we're leaving the hotel. The hotel is 5 minutes away from the pool, and I'm going to sit on the bench for 30 minutes before I even start warming up. So is there any point to us being here? No, but I need to be there.
Oh, your teammates must hate you.
Sorry, I just like I need to just sit on the bench and just sit there and like have a moment. And so we got to the pool. I did my little sit on the bench that my teammates love, especially in the morning. And then we did my warm up. I got ready and I was freaking out because the 100 freestyle, it was just this year, all events in the NCAA are so competitive. And the 100 freestyle was one that like, I knew that like, obviously my night swim really mattered, but like the morning to get into a final, like that was going to need to take a lot. And so I was freaking out, but we ended up swimming it and obviously went well. I got a lifetime PR and I was ranked second, made a final, and I was like, cool. First thing checked off the box. It was kind of like the day went in segments for sure, because it was just so much to like sit there and like try and like process all at once. So I was like, okay, 100 free prelims. I don't know what's going on after that. And then after that, we went back. I actually did have a little bit of time to go back to the hotel in between everything, which was really nice. I went and I got lunch, and then I like got all ready for track. I grabbed my track stuff and my swimming stuff, and we headed over to the track at around 1:30-ish. And then I warmed up starting at around 2:30, and then we started competing at 4. We competed until I think it was around 5. And then I actually couldn't leave the track right away because this year the NCAA really cracked down on like drug testing. And so I'm standing there and I'm like, hey guys, I have to go leave. I'm competing in swimming right now. And the officials were like, what? Like the looks that I got from these people, I was like, they were like, you want to stick around because we need to make sure that like you're all good to leave. And I was like, yeah, but I like have to go because I have an event at the swim meet. And like they looked at me like I was crazy. Like I didn't know what I was doing, which I didn't, but it was a whole process. And then, so I actually had to hang around there for 15, 20 minutes to make sure that like all got situated. And then it was like, book it to the pool. And it was crazy because I honestly didn't feel like I was in that much of a rush, but everyone was like, go, 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 go. And at the time I didn't really understand because I was like, well, it's like 5:15. Like, I don't even really need to leave this place until 5:45, honestly. So like, it's fine. And then I ended up getting there and I put my tech suit on, did a 200, and then went back to the ready room. I was like, "Oh, this is why people were rushing me the whole time." And then I ended up competing the 100 freestyle, and it was probably like I said before the race, I said, "This is gonna be the second most painful 100 freestyle of my life." The first one is going to be the one after that in the relay, and I was like, I don't think I've ever been more right about anything in my whole life because that it just yeah, it hurt really bad, and I was, like, in the middle of the race, I'm like, "Am I gonna finish? Like, is this gonna happen right now?" Like, I did all the work making the A final, but I don't know if I can touch the wall right now, my legs were shot. Um, but no, it was just, like, a crazy ride, and then obviously, like, we finished the individual where I took 8th, got on the podium, All-American honors, as well as in high jump, I completely skipped over that. I had a huge PR in high jump, got 8th place in high jump, which for me is huge because I actually did make it to outdoor nationals last year for high jump and I got dead last, like dead last. And I just like that experience, like really, really made me nervous coming into this because like so many people were talking to me about like, oh, swimming and high jump, swimming and high jump. And I'm like, yeah, swimming and high jump, but like guys, I might not even make the first bar at high jump, so I don't know if we should get really jazzed up about high jump. So that was huge for me. Big PR, got 8th place, All American honors in that. It was just super cool. But yeah, so we finished out the swim meet, did the 100 freestyle, did the relay, and it was a lot, but it was like the coolest thing in the world. Like it felt like it was like 4 separate days, honestly. It was like I had one day where I swam prelims, and I had another day where I was, like, at the track meet, and another day at the 100 freestyle, and honestly, another day for the relay because that was a whole like, I literally got to that point, I was like, "I don't know if this is gonna happen." I was, like, borderline,
Uh,
like, I was considering going to my coach and asking him to sub me out because my legs I, like, could not even stand. I thought they were gonna cramp and I wasn't gonna be able to finish the race, but we did it, and it was, like, such an awesome day. It was so fun, so it was just cool.
What can you tell me a little bit more about after that finals 100 freestyle, just getting ready for the relay and what you did, how your teammates reacted to you, just being there after the day you had, and how the relay did?
Yeah, so I pretty much I walked over well, I stumbled over after my 100 freestyle. It was, like, actually, like, really bad. My legs kept giving out, and I people probably thought that I was, like, going through it, which I was, but I it was just, like, walking over to the bench was, like, a trek. Like, it was, like, so hard for me to get there, and so I got there and I immediately sat down, and all my teammates, like, they were obviously so supportive. They actually a bunch of them, I think all of them actually came to watch my track meet. And it was super fun because they had told me that they wanted to go, but I was like, well, like, we're swimming, right? Like, we're at a swim meet." And so after one of my jumps, I think it was the 172 jump, which was right before my PR, they cheered super loud and like it caught my attention. I saw them in the stands and I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, hello. And so it was actually really cute. Like they were all so, so great. And I like having them there made like a night and day difference. And so I walked over after the 100 and they were all like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "My legs hurt so bad." It was literally just like my legs were on fire. And I had like we shared a bench with a bunch of different teams, all of them from the NSIC, and I had different coaches. They were like, "You need to stand up, you need to sit down, you need to walk around," and I was like, "I don't even know what to do, guys." I literally just I um did like a 30-minute cool down. Like literally was just in the pool kicking with a kickboard for like 30 minutes. And then went to go do the awards for the 100 freestyle. And then I sat in the hallway with my legs in the air, and I muscle gunned them, and I hoped for the best. And then we went to the relay, and the relay was so fun. Honestly, that was a relay for us that like qualifying in itself was a huge deal. And so going into it was like just like go have fun with it. I think that's kind of the approach that everyone took. It was like we had 2 seniors on that relay. And we had one girl who had come just only to swim that relay, and so she had been hanging out all week to swim the 150 freestyle or the 100 freestyle. And so it's just like a hodgepodge of like, I mean, we have these 2 seniors who's like, it's our last event, and we have this girl, and she's like, I'm so excited to swim because I've been sitting here watching you guys swim all week. And then we have me, and I'm like, guys, I'm a disaster. Like, we're gonna need to figure this out. And so we were all just standing there. We're like, honestly, like this is just gonna be a fun moment for us, and like a chance to go out there and leave it all in the pool. And so we ended up swimming. Everyone swam really well. I don't think we had any huge time cuts, but it was just like it was something where we just went out and did it and like had such a good time with it. And it was so fun, and I loved every second of it. It was awesome.
That's so heartwarming to hear. It's so good to hear that you had some fun with this Herculean
Yeah.
event of a day. What
I'm
year
a
in school are
junior.
you, Bryn? Junior. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, now that we've gotten the full story of this like crazy day, how did this come to be? Because I know very little of the backstory. Like, and I have so many questions. First, have you ever competed at both of these championships before?
Yeah, so I this is my 3rd year competing at the swim and dive national championships. Um, and
Mhm.
I've never qualified for an indoor track championship, but last year I qualified for outdoor. Um, and I just did the
Okay.
one for track.
Yeah. So were you able to do it solely because they were in the
Mhm.
same place?
Yeah, well, so because usually, I mean, obviously every 4 years it's the festival year, and so all of the winter sports are in like the same place. Oh, maybe that's not an obviously. Okay, every 4 years, they have this thing called a festival year where all winter sports compete in the same city. In the past, it's been even in the same venue, and it's just like a chance for like it's yeah, so it's
Cool.
swimming, wrestling, and track, and we all are just in the same
Okay.
city, and, like, it's I mean, we're all staying in the hotels, so you're passing all these different athletes as you're going, and it's just a really cool
Yeah.
experience that I honestly didn't even know existed until my track coach told me about it my freshman year, um, but yeah, no,
Mm.
because usually, all of the championships are during the same week, I think, but they're in different states, and so obviously, like, I wouldn't be able to make it work. Um, so yeah, the
Yeah.
way that this kind of all, like, came about, my freshman year, at the end of the year, my track coach, Greg Benstock, he sat me down and he was like, "Bryn, I have this awesome idea for you. Like, this is gonna be great." And I'm like, "Okay, Greg, let's hear it." And he was like, I want you jumping 5'7" regularly by the time you're a junior because there's a festival year and you're going to compete in swimming and track in the same week. And he had that meeting with me after I had just had a really tough track season. And I was like, Greg, I averaged 5'3" this year on a good day. Sometimes maybe not even 5 feet. And you want me jumping 5'7" so that I can okay. So, so that was crazy, and I pretty much, like, shrugged it off. I was like, "Okay, you're crazy." Because especially coming into college, like, I had never even thought that I had a chance of qualifying for swimming nationals, and so I'm like now I'm sitting here, like, swimming is the sport that I'm a lot better at, and so I was like, I never even considered anything for track. I was like, "Track is just gonna be, like, super fun, super awesome, I'm gonna love it." Like, I never even, kinda even set those high goals for myself because I didn't consider it to be a possibility at all. And so he
Mhm.
said this, and I was like, "Okay," and kinda walked out of the meeting, and I told all my friends, and we all laughed about it, and then we moved on. And then, um, we had actually on the swimming side, we had a coaching change from my freshman to my sophomore year, which brought in two new coaches for me, actually. Andrew Makepeace, who is my swim coach, and his wife, Bree Makepeace, who is an incredible track coach. And so she actually came in and worked with Greg and me. She was a high jumper for Augustana in the past. And so we worked together, and she fixed a lot of problems that I had with my approach, which were obviously limiting me a lot, because then after that season, between her and Greg's help, I had a huge jump one day, 174, qualified me for outdoor nationals my sophomore year. And I feel like that was kind of like, that jump was like the moment, like, because 174, I think it's 5'8" and a quarter or something. And so like I landed on the mat and I looked up and I looked at this bar, and immediately the first thing I thought of, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what Greg told me he wanted me to do. I was like, wait a minute, is this actually going to be a thing I can do? So um that was kind of what jump started the whole thing.
Pun
Yeah,
intended.
yeah, literally. But I mean, that was so serious for me. I ended up going home this last summer because I didn't plan on staying in Sioux Falls for work or anything, and I hadn't considered this to even be a possibility. So I actually spent the first month of summer in Sioux Falls training for the Olympic trials for swimming, and then I went home for the next 2 months. And the next 2 months pretty much consisted of me, I think, at least for 5 days a week for the entire 2 months. I would lift twice a day, and every single day, because I didn't have a coach, I would go to my high school track, and I would pull out the high jump pits, and I would set up my phone, and I would film, and I would jump, and I'd watch it. And then I'd set it up, and I'd jump again, and I'd watch it. And I would stay at the track every single day for probably 2 or 3 hours every single day. And, like, it was my friends probably hated me because I was like, "Guys, I'm coming home for the summer," and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, yay, we're gonna hang out." And then every day they're like, "Hey, Bryn, wanna hang out?" I'm like, "So, actually, I'm at the track." Um, and it was like, I have hundreds of videos on my phone of me jumping, and it's like, it is kind of insane to go look back on. But I mean, that, like, I firmly believe made the difference, because my form got way better. I was doing regular texting back and forth with Bree and Greg during this to like get tips on my form and stuff like that. Like, it just was, this summer was a lot of work, and I don't think it ever would have been possible without either of my coaches to like push me to get to the point where I believe I can do that, but also just like for Greg having that idea. Like, I never ever would have even known it was a festival year unless like someone told me about it. I don't know. I just like the way it all fell into place was like, it was so cool, and it was so perfect, because I mean, if this happened last year, I wouldn't have been good enough to make it. Or freshman year, and it's every 4 years, like, I don't know, it just was like, this was such a cool thing, and I don't even know how it happened. It was like, it is so insane, I don't even know how to put it into words, like, it just is beyond me, honestly.
It's really wild to hear that this was, yeah, like 2 years in the making. Like um, the thought of this had occurred so far in the past. But then it also sounds like, hey, you put in a lot of work to make
Mhm.
this happen, right? So I mean, in one sense, this was very purposeful, and you did have this goal of improving, maybe not necessarily of competing at both, but um, did you compete at Olympic trials this summer?
Yes. So, I this was another thing where when Andrew Makepeace came in, all of my coaches just have really big dreams for me, apparently, because Andrew, the first time I ever met him, we did a Zoom conference call just for him to get to know all the people on the team. He's like, "Hey, Bryn, nice to meet you," like, all, like, the typical yada yada, and then he goes, "I have a goal for you. You're gonna qualify for the Olympic trials." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so this is awesome," because I've never even swam in a long course pool ever in my entire life. So you're
What?
I I was like, "This is ridiculous," but okay. Again, another thing, I just, like, brushed it off. I was like, "Oh, yeah, totally," like, nod and smile, like, "Yeah, yeah." Um,
Mhm.
and then we had a long course meet before the day before our mid-season meet. And the way it worked, there was a bunch of teams that came, like with a bunch.
Like in November or
Yeah.
December?
Of my
Okay.
sophomore year. And we had a bunch of teams that came to compete in it because if everyone was trying to get cuts for either trials or if they're internationals for the Olympics. And so we had a bunch of teams there. There wasn't a lot of people competing, but it was like enough for it to like, obviously be a pretty decent sized meet. And so the way it worked is I had a prelim swim, a semifinal swim, and a final swim. In my prelim swim, I swam, it was like me and like 6 other people. In my semifinal swim, it was me and like 2 other people. And then my final swim was just me. And again, like I said, I'd never competed in a long course pool before. So I'm getting behind.
Had you trained
No,
in one?
no, no. But I've learned that my flip turns are really bad because clearly something worked. Because yeah, I did the first one. I was behind the block before my first 50, and I was like, I don't even have any gauge on how this is gonna go because I put my time in like the swim converter earlier that day, and I was like, well, I'm gonna miss this by a long shot then because that is way too fast.
Hold on. What was your time?
It was, I think my all-time PR at that time was a 22.50, which
Okay.
the conversion for the trials cut was around like a 22.2. So
Okay.
I hadn't gotten anywhere close that season. That season my PR was like a 22.8, which I literally the
Oh,
next day
okay.
went a 22.8. So I'm like, I
Uh-huh.
was like, I don't know what's going on, but I did my first 50 and it was like almost too close. Like we're all sitting there, we're like, wait a minute.
What was the trials cut?
It was 25.69.
Okay.
And I know that because on the second try, I got a little closer. And on my third try, with just me in the pool, I got the trials cut down to the 100th of a second.
You win 25.69.
Yeah, it was insane. And so that was actually another funny thing. So I qualified for outdoor high jump nationals. So
Mhm.
I had to push back my training for the Olympic trials because I was training for high jump. And so I feel like my life is just very chaotic and I kind of just do whatever my coaches tell me to do. But yeah, so that was also another huge thing that I was like, this is never going to happen. And then it did. So we're kind of just living whatever my coaches tell me, I just try and figure out how to do it. And it's worked so far, clearly. So
Clearly, you've gotten to go to really prestigious meets in both swimming and track and field at this point, both collegiately and nationally.
mhm.
Um, I mean, not only that, you got to go to Olympic trials on a football field.
I know,
Uh,
so cool.
well, just tell me about experiencing trials, especially, I mean, I don't know how many D2 athletes we see go to Olympic trials, but I think the number's fairly small.
I could be totally wrong, but I think there was like 3 or 4 of us that were there.
That sounds
Um,
about right.
like, so it was super, super cool. Like, I will never forget the feeling. So, like I said, I swam 350s. On my second one, I touched, and at that point, everyone in the stands could kind of figure out what was going on. And so I touched the wall, and I just heard a unanimous like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was the worst feeling in the whole world. Why did everyone do that to me?" And so for the next one, I was like, "My goal is to not hear that. Like, qualifying for trials, whatever. I don't want to hear the crowd like, oh, like that was so sad." And so I get to the wall and I touch, and where I was standing, I couldn't see the scoreboard super well. So I heard everyone cheering before I saw that I made it, and I was like, "You're lying. Like, you're lying."
Yeah.
It just is so crazy. And so, yeah, that was just the coolest thing in the whole world. Like, just getting to be there and experience that. Obviously, like, I only swam a 50, and so I only went for a few days. But, like, I mean, the first day I got there, my coach was like, "Oh, go do a swim out." I get into my lane, I'm swimming out, and I get to the wall, and I look up, and there's Katie Ledecky getting in my lane with me.
Yeah.
Hello? And then I'm standing there, standing there before my race. I'm like, I'm just a girl from Division 2, like small town Minnesota. I don't really know what's going on. La di da di da. Gretchen Walsh. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're swimming the same race. Like technically, I'm racing her. Very different heats. It just was such a like I don't even have words to like I don't want to say that I felt like I didn't belong there because I definitely didn't, but it honestly wasn't even about feeling like I belonged. It was just taking it all in. Like every single day that I was at the pool, it was just taking it all in. And like I can remember probably every single millisecond of my race. Like I've never felt anything like that because I had seen an interview before I got there where someone was like, "How does it feel swimming in a football stadium?" And someone was like, "Honestly, like it's still just a pool, so like it feels the same." Disagree because that's the coolest thing I've ever done in my
Thumbs
life.
down. Thumbs down.
Yeah, hot take because I thought, like, it was even just, like, the lighting and, like, the atmosphere and the morning that I swam, it was the 50 free prelims and, like, the 1,500 prelims, and that was it for women in the 50 and men for the 1,500. So,
Yeah.
there weren't that many people in the stands. I, like, can't even imagine what it's like at finals, but, um, it just was so insane. And then, like, the first day I was there, I got lost in the stadium, actually. That's a fun fact for everyone. I've walked around the stadium for 45 minutes, and I couldn't find my way out, and I almost cried, but I didn't because I was like, "That's embarrassing." Katie will be walk around the corner and, like, Caleb Dressel, and they're gonna see you crying, and they're gonna think, "Wow, she's embarrassing." And so I didn't cry, but I wanted to. It was just like, I don't know. Like, I'm walking around this huge football stadium, and I'm like, "This is my venue I'm competing in right now." It just I, like I don't know. I don't even have words for it all. Like, every single thing that has happened in my life thus far, like, I don't have any words for because it is just so crazy. Like, I don't know. I just, like I really try my best to just take it all in because, like, these are experiences that, like, are so rare, and they're just so cool and so, like, so fun. I don't know. I don't even have words. It's just so insane to me. I can't even fathom it, honestly.
I feel like Olympic trials is that, right? Like it's hard to describe in words. I've been to Olympic trials either to spectate or to cover it for the last 4 iterations, and, like, honestly, it's my least favorite meet because there's so much going on, and it's so stimulating, there's so many emotions that I'm just like, "I don't this is too much for me." Like, yeah, but I think you kinda summed it up, right? Like, it is crazy. There's so much, and all you can do is try to take it all in. Um, but also, speaking of, like, doing rare things, like, do you know of anyone who's ever competed at both nationals for track and swimming?
I actually did look it up because I kept, like, telling all of my close friends and family, I'm like, "Oh, I'm the first person to do this," and then I was like, "Wait a minute, like, let's be so real. Maybe you're not." And, um, I looked it up, and I saw a lot of things that came up where it was, like, dual sports, where it's in different seasons and stuff like that, like, it's definitely been done where, like, people play 2 sports in college and attend nationals in both, but in the same week and on the same day, I'm I don't think that's happened before, um, but yeah, no, I as far as I know,
Yeah.
it's just me.
Just you,
Yeah,
which is a pretty cool claim to, I guess, fame at this point. To yeah, to be able to do both of those things in the same day. So let's take it back a little bit further. What inspired you to become a two-sport athlete and pursue that into college? I mean, first of all, just I would love to give a shout out to these coaches of yours who are so encouraging of this. I mean, they're just like, okay, yeah, here's your goals. They're giving you crazy huge goals,
yeah,
but not discouraging you to focus on one sport or the other
mhm,
whatsoever, which is certainly in swimming, not always what we see.
yeah. No, so that was definitely huge for me in recruiting. So pretty much in high school, I joined I joined swimming when I was like a fourth grader-ish, third or fourth, because all of my friends like were in swimming, and at the lunch table every single day they'd always talk about swimming. And I was like, guys, I feel left out. So instead of just being like a normal human being and asking them to explain it to me, I just joined it instead. And became the most obnoxious person in the whole world. And so that was where swimming started. Honestly, I was pretty terrible at it for a lot of years. But we just kept trekking and it was great. It was fun. It was awesome. And then in seventh grade is when I joined track. And at my school, you can join any high school sport at seventh grade, and then you're just like on the junior high team, unless you're like really good and get pulled up to varsity. I didn't do that, but other kids did. And I can't run like at all. And so everyone, okay, I don't remember what I said, what I did say, but everyone in my school joined track. Like everyone in the spring joined track.
Okay.
So I joined track, but I can't run, right? I looked like I'd be able to run. My coaches made the mistake every single year of putting me in a running event and then wondering why I did awful at it. But I can't run. I can't figure it out. And so I'm 6 feet tall, 5'11", 6 feet. So my coaches were like, you know what? Next best thing. We're going to put you in high jump. And I was like, guys, I'm the least coordinated person in the whole earth. I don't know how you think I'm going to do this. But I loved it and I just kept doing it. And yeah, all throughout high school and like the rest of middle school, I did both. And it was always 3 months of swimming. My family's a big CrossFit family. So 3 months of CrossFit, 3 months of track, 3 months of CrossFit. It was just the cycle. We did it every year. And then it got time to do college recruiting. And I kind of just sat back and I was like, honestly, like, I don't think I can be a swimmer without also being a high jumper. Like for me, those have always been together, obviously excluding like the fourth to sixth grade. But like, I just can't even imagine doing one without the other. I love them both so much, but I think I just would get almost like tired of. Like I'm a very high burnout athlete, honestly, especially when it comes to the swimming side. Like I need a break, and high jump like is perfect for that break because honestly, I hate cardio. I'm not cardio and me, we have a difficult relationship.
Mhm.
And high jump is no cardio, which is awesome because I hate cardio. So, I don't know. It just like high jump was always just like so fun. And like obviously swimming is so fun, but it's just in like a different way. Um, it kind of was like yin and yang, like working together. Like I need them both in order to have like a whole. And so when I was doing college recruiting, like I said, I'm better at swimming, and swimming's kind of always been my like quote unquote thing. And so I did recruiting for swimming because I was like, no matter what, I'm going to be a swimmer. But as I continued to do the recruiting process, I realized, well, track is going to have to be a make or break. Like I need to do this.
Mhm.
Because the thought of just swimming in college made me really sad when I knew how much I loved high jump. And even just knowing like coming out of high school that it was like I wasn't the greatest jumper in the world, but I had potential, and I was able to be good enough to go on a team and do some really cool things. So I'm like, I would always sit back and wonder what I could have done. So I would always do recruiting for swimming. And then right when the coach seemed like they liked me a lot, so, hey, can I have your track coach's number? and then and then I dropped the bomb on them that, hello, I also want a high jump. And some coaches took it really great. Some coaches, again, I waited for a while. So they'd always be like, oh, I don't know if that's gonna be able to work. Like no coach was ever mean about it, but you could just tell that some coaches were not super
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Um,
And were you doing a lot of recruiting, like most of it in Division II? Were you talking to Division I coaches, Division III? Like, what was that like?
yeah, I don't think I talked to any Division I coaches, honestly. I wanted to go D2 because I wanted to be at a super high level without like I was so scared of D1 when I was in high school. Like I was like, I want to be at the highest level I can, but not D1 because they're terrifying. And so that's pretty much what landed me in D2.
Mhm.
I did a lot of talking with some D3 and NAIA schools. I talked to basically every single coach in the NSIC for Division II. And I basically just landed on, for me, a lot of the decision came down to obviously like the coaches here being so accepting of like swimming and track, but also Augustana has really great academics. And it's 4.5 hours away from my house, which is awesome because then I'm like far enough away that like my parents can't expect me to come home on a random weekend, but also close enough that like if I do need to go home and see my dogs really, really bad, like I can do that.
Mhm.
Um, and so I feel like it just was kind of like in the perfect location and had the perfect things that I wanted. Um, and that's kind of how I landed on that.
Yeah. And that's, again, just so cool that you were able to find the right fit for you and get coaches and a coaching staff and a team that's supportive of you doing both these sports. How does that work? How does training work?
So it actually is so convenient for swimming and track because
Mhm,
swimming season is like primarily from September to March.
mhm.
Um, and track indoor season is also from September to March. And then they have a separate season, which is outdoor, which is from March to like June ish. So my freshman year, I pretty much just cut indoor season. Like I'm pretty sure I redshirted indoor season and I just did swimming and then I did track. Um, and then once we got our new coaching staff, and obviously like Andrew and Bree, like they're married. Andrew was more involved in like the track world. He came up to me one day at practice. He's like, "Do you want to compete at high jump this weekend?" And I was like, "Whoa, it's swim season! Like, what are you talking about?" Um, and he was like, "Well, you can just compete on the weekends if you want to." And so I was like, "Okay, like I'm not gonna say no to high jumping. Are you serious?" And so I eventually started incorporating competing also into my weekends. But as far as practice goes, I do all of the swim workouts during swim season. Swimming is obviously my main priority because I have a whole other season to do track as well. But I also, freshman and sophomore year, I just kind of added one high jump practice throughout my week. And this year, obviously trying to train for the festival year, I added two. Um, so that's kind of during swim season, that's what I do. And then track, I fully transition just to track and then call it a day.
So no swimming outside of that swimming season.
I'll do some swimming here or there, like I'll join my team for off-season practices sometimes, but honestly, by the time I get to the end of the year, I'm so just exhausted that I kind of I don't want to say I take track as my off season because that's definitely not true, but I allow that to kind of be my time to like cut back a little bit on the hours, like give myself a little bit of a break, focus on track after so many literally 6 months because it's a 6 to 3 month ratio, like it's not exactly even.
Right.
Um, let myself focus on track, and then obviously summer is the time to like hit the ground running again as far as training goes for me. So I um yeah, I kind of just let that 3 month span be a rest, like take a breather and then keep on going, keep trucking. So
Yeah. What do you do in the summer?
it depends on where I'm at. If I'm at home, we have like a little rig and some weights in our shed, so I can do a lot of lifting there, and obviously like CrossFit and stuff. But if I'm here, it gets a little more complicated just because I don't really have like a gym that I like it's not I don't have like a home gym.
Mhm.
Um, so I usually just honestly do a lot of CrossFitting. Me and CrossFit get really tight in the summer. And then a lot of lifting whenever I can. Sometimes I'll go swim, sometimes I'll high jump, but I usually try to practice or at least do something like 2, maybe 3 times a day. Just because I'm an athlete, I love cross training. Like I
Okay.
think that cross training is the greatest thing in the whole world. Like we start off our swim season by doing a lot of dry land. And in swimming, everyone thinks that in order to be a good swimmer, you have to pound yards, like yards every day, yards, 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 yards. And our coach is more of like a sprintier, newer coach in the way that he's like, if we can get really good at like doing swimming and dry land, we're going to get better at swimming. And so we do a lot of dry land, and I love it. I think it's the greatest thing in the whole world. It gives you a break from the pool and also like helps you get better. Um, and so I do a lot of cross training in the summer, just whenever I can, however I can, whatever that looks like. But I do try to do at least 1 or 2 things a day, just to make sure that I'm like stronger when I come into the next season.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's no one can question your dedication to being an athlete. I mean, it sounds like you're putting in some serious work, which is awesome. Congrats on seeing the results of that. I didn't even realize you also became an NCAA champion this past week in the 50 freestyle,
Mhm.
first Division II athlete to break 22 seconds in the 50 freestyle.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh my gosh. I don't even like that genuinely was such a full circle moment for me. The 50's always kind of been like my event. I mean, that's what I competed at trials. It was the first event that I qualified for state when I was in high school. Um, it's always kind of just been my thing, and I have had a lot of success and done a lot of really cool things with the 50. But I mean, it takes a moment like that for you to like look back and think about where you've come from, because I remember my sophomore year of high school looking at our school record, which in the 50 was a 23.98, I think. And I remember looking at my coach and saying, "Do you think I can get that by my senior year?" And I think every single day I wondered, "Can I get that by my senior year?" And I ended up breaking it that year. Um, which is so crazy. And then, I mean, fast forwarding 2 years later, because I didn't really get to have a junior season because of COVID. Um, Senior year, I got to state and I was like, I have a real shot of winning the 50. Like, this would be so incredible. The 50 is like my event. It was the biggest buildup in the whole world. And I remember showing up to my event and looking at the girl who I was racing. Her name is Grace Hansen, and she now swims at Mizzou, and she is very fast. So I think in prelim she went like a 22, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm not even kidding. I went up to her before the race and I said, I can't even imagine going a 22-second 50 freestyle. That is so crazy. You should be so proud of yourself and all that jazz. And then that night, she got a 22.5 state record, won the event, like so deserving. She killed that. But I remember I looked up at my name and I got a 22.9. And that was like everything for me. Like that was the moment. I mean, like I'm a senior and I had wondered if I would break 24 by the time that I was a senior, and I had just broken 23. And so, that was something huge that I carried with me for a lot of swimming. And then my freshman year, mid-season, I got 22.5. And I think that was another one of those moments, kind of like my big high jump I had during my outdoor season. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like there are some really, really cool things to be done still. And so that was my goal. That day, it was my goal to become. I didn't even want to just get like, and you can talk to any of my friends about it, I was so annoying about it. I didn't want to just get a 21. I wanted to be the first person in Division II to break 22. Like, that was everything. And I talked about it every day. I don't think there's been a single day that has gone by since I was a freshman at midseason in November that I have not talked about this. It just it's what I think about every day when I get in the pool. Like, every time a sprint set gets a little too hard, I think, "Well, do you wanna reach that goal?" Like, every time I'm at the end of, like, some best average set that I don't wanna do and I wanna go home and I wanna be in my bed, I'm like, "Okay, well, imagine this is the last 12 yards of your 50 free. Like, you're gonna break 22. Like, you have to push." It's just something that, like, is always there. And so, when I touched the wall and I saw that time, I, like I don't know if I've ever been as proud of anything I've ever done in my entire life, because, I mean, obviously, we've just had a very long talk about all of these cool things that I never even imagined myself doing. But the difference is I never thought I would reach those goals. Like, almost never even considered it. It's just a whole different type of, like, "This is crazy, this is insane. I'm so excited, I'm so proud." Now we're talking about something that, like, I have been actively thinking about and working for so many years, and, I mean, that was just such a big moment for me. I got on the podium, and I told myself I wasn't gonna cry, and I cried a lot. So, I mean, there's just something so different about, like, we competed in that same pool when I was a freshman, and I remember, I wanted to be a national champion. I wanted to break 22, and that didn't happen. An amazing swimmer, Johanna, she won and she broke the national record. She's like an insane person. And so I remember sitting there on the second place spot, looking up to this person who I was so immensely proud of and so impressed by. And so I walked onto the podium this year and I got on that number one spot and I just looked around and I was like, there's no one to look up to right now. Like, I'm that person. And I never, I don't know. Like, it was just like, that was what I worked for. And like, that was everything. That meant more to me than I think anyone will ever know because I can't put it into words, but that was such a big moment for me. It was such a cultivation of everything that I've done, just kind of into 21.92 seconds. And it was everything.
Would it have would it have been different if like the heat before you or two heats before you, someone else would have gone 21?
I think we would have seen different types of tears, actually. So, because that was what I was worried about. There is
Mhm.
a 50 swimmer in D2 right now. Her name is Kirabo, and she is very fast. And earlier this season, in a random dual meet, she went at 22:03, broke the national record. And I did cry. I sat on my friend's living room like beanbag, and I was like, "I'm not gonna be the first person in D2 to break 22." And I remember one of my friends looked at me, he goes, "I cannot wait until you're in the heat before her in prelims and you break 22, and then all of a sudden there you are." Like, and that is literally exactly what happened. So I guess he was right. I should go tell him he's right probably. But it just was such a big deal for me. Like, it probably seemed so dramatic to everyone else, but I think I've thought about this every single hour of every single day for years. It's like
Yeah.
so huge.
It's so cool to hear you talk about that goal because again, like you said, this is something that you've been focusing on and driven by and working towards for several years now. But man, what a bummer what it would have been if someone else did it first.
Oh, it would have been fine. It would have been great, and I would have been so proud of them. But I would have felt a little, yeah, a little sad, a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Well, congrats on that goal because again, that one is such a different landmark than those other ones. So now just having taken it all in, your seasons, your swim season and indoor track season are over.
Mhm.
And you reached all of the goals that you have ever had / didn't even know you could achieve. What now?
That is such a great question. I'm a person who obviously like my goals never stop growing. I mean, immediately when I get done with a race, I go, "Oh my gosh, can I get it faster next year?" And so, I mean, there's so many landmarks that I still have to hit. I was a 52.2 in my 100 backstroke. Can I go a 51? Like, I was a 49.03 in my 100 freestyle. Can I go a 48? Like, what about can I hit the 21 mid? Like, can I like do something like that? And obviously, I promised myself maybe this was I don't think it was a mistake, but it was definitely a choice. Obviously, after trials, everyone asked me, they're like, "Are you going to try again for 2028?" And I literally said the exact words to every single person that asked. I was like, "Well, honestly, like I'll be graduated for 2 years at that point, so I don't know if it's worth taking away from my career unless I like get way faster and go like a 21 or something, and then like I have a chance to do some really cool things at trials." So here we are. And so obviously like looking to 2028, that's definitely something that I'm thinking about if like my life allows me to do that. Um, I don't know. I just feel like if you achieve your goals and then never set higher ones, I feel like you're gonna hit a point where you just kinda stop, and I never want to hit that point. I want to keep getting better. I'm proud, and I feel so accomplished of everything I've done, and I wanna feel that again for more. I think have more in me. I'm hoping I do, and I don't know. I'll find new goals, and I'll set new goals, and I'll find a way to reach those too.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.